Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of DIY Outdoor Life. Today we have the Teardrop in tow and we are heading to one of my favorite boondocking sites. Now you might be able to tell that we are in the Jeep today instead of the Tacoma, and there's a good reason for that too. But because it's so difficult to film yourself and shift at the same time, we'll catch up when I get to camp. So this is going to be home for the night. Because of the weather that is in the forecast, we're going to do a style of camping that a lot of people call the hit and run. I'm staying attached to my tow vehicle. I'm not dropping the stabilizers, no elaborate campsite. We're going to stay hitched up and just use the camper as a warm, dry place to sleep. That's going to allow me to hit the trails this afternoon and do a little hiking and hopefully be able to catch a hike in the morning as well. Now it's freezing right now, so I'm gonna bundle up and then we'll get to it. Okay, much better. Now to bring you guys up to speed, this is one of my favorite places to go boondocking. We're on private property and we have permission to use this as a campsite. We talk about some of this stuff in the Boondocking video. If you haven't seen that, I'll tag that up above here or watch it after this video. But we love it so much because a few hundred yards this way or a few hundred yards that way, and there's miles of public land. So we can use this campsite as a hub to do the other type of bushwhacking that we love, the off-trail hiking. Now, even though I was excited to do this, there's an expression, man plans and the universe laughs. Just a couple days ago, out of nowhere, they forecasted a storm. We could get 5 inches, we could get a foot, it could miss us altogether. But Ripple and Lucia decided to tap out for this trip. So I'm still excited to be here, and I figured it'd give me an opportunity to show you a couple tips and tricks that you can do to be able to prepare for a storm like this. I brought none of my fancy or expensive gear. There's no insulated tents with stove jacks or any of that stuff. This is just the bare essentials. Okay, I know I said nothing was too expensive, but let me get the one thing out of the way. It's important to talk about your tow vehicle. Now, with the possibility of a foot of snow coming tonight, it's important to know that you're going to be able to get out of here. The road is supposed to be plowed, but I do have V-bar chains with good ground clearance. I have snow tires on this car, locking differentials. I am confident that I'm going to be able to get out of here even if the snowplow does not show up. But what's more important than the tow vehicle is actually how you set your campsite up. So let's talk about that. So my first tip is do not detach from your camper. Unless it's an absolute emergency and you are abandoning the camper, anybody who's familiar with either roadside recovery or off-road recovery will tell you, do not detach the trailer from the tow vehicle. It is a lot easier to tow both of the units out together than to tow your tow vehicle out and to come back and try to recover a trailer. A lot of those tow trucks don't even have the hookups to be able to do that. They have to flatbed the trailer out. So the first rule is to stay connected. So depending on how level your campsite is, you might need an extra minute of setup when you're staying connected this way. If your trailer's out of whack left and right, you can use these little stackable leveling blocks to stick one under one tire, drive up on it, and be able to level your trailer left and right. If it's out of level on the tongue, meaning front and back, or your head is going to be too low when you're sleeping, you can put these underneath the trailer or your tow vehicle. I'll put them underneath the front tires if I want the tongue to come down. I'll put it underneath the back tires if I want the tow vehicle back to rise, which will lift the tongue. So you can actually use these blocks on your tow vehicle or on the trailer. If you want to go too high, you should use 3 blocks to do it. When you start just stacking these blocks on top of each other, you create a wheel chuck, and a lot of times it's difficult to get up on top. So a couple essential tools here. I have a snow shovel. I actually have a steel flat shovel in the car too, a short one that helps out if I'm in a recovery situation. An old broom. When a broom goes bad in your house, you can shorten the handle and bring it along with you. This does a really good job getting the snow off your camper. And the last tool is an old scraper brush that used to be for my car. And then when the brush wore out, I saved it for the camper. This telescopic pole does a really good job pulling the snow off the roof or cleaning off a solar panel if you're still trying to charge your batteries. So a couple other items that I consider essential. A plastic bin like this, I put my boots in it and it slides underneath the camper. I bring a couple plastic bags with me for wet clothes. Sometimes you can wrap it around the bottom of a wet coat that you have to bring inside the camper. And the last one is hangers. You'll be able to hang certain items in your tow vehicle. I always bring a shell layer. It can even be layers with a raincoat or rain pants, but that outside layer is going to be hung inside the tow vehicle. I'll wear sweats inside the camper or my underlayer to get between the tow vehicle and the camper. You do not want to track a bunch of snow or bring a bunch of wet clothes with you in the camper. So a little tip for the people who use these outside thermometers with their camper. I take one of these reusable zip ties and I actually link the outside unit onto the roof rack of the camper. I just barely tighten it on there. That way if I remember it, I can take it off and bring it home. But if I forget it, I don't leave it at the campsite and it doesn't blow into the road. After a nice evening stroll in the woods, I return back to camp to stare at a fire for a few hours in the silence of winter. For me, this is what it's all about. The repairs, the service, the modifications, the Amazon purchases. It's all about increasing opportunities like this. And if you haven't had this opportunity, there's not much I can say about it. You either get it or you don't. Okay, folks, so I'm getting ready to check in for the night. It's a little after 9 p.m., so it'll give me an opportunity to get up a little earlier and assess that situation. I figured I'd give you a little tour of what we're working with inside the Bushwhacker. This is my mid layer. I got the sweatpants and long underwear on. So like I mentioned, my shells are in the tow vehicle. Even though they're not wet, they do smell like campfire smoke, so it's a good opportunity to just keep those out of the camper. And if I want to bring them in the morning to warm them up, no problem. This is that little hack that I showed you guys in a couple, maybe last video, a couple videos ago, I don't know. We're at 94%, and this thing has been on for hours, 5 or 6 hours. So this is a really effective way to bring the battery in where it's warm. It lets me know how many watts. When the furnace kicks on, that'll jump to, it'll add about 25 watts to it. But I do think because this is so easy, I'm going to do this a lot more. This battery has thousands of cycles in it, so it's really going to preserve the AGM that I'm using on the camper. I'm going to probably get a couple more years out of it if I do this system more frequently. This guy over here holds an iPad. It clips onto this shelf. I like flexibility, multi-use. I'm not going to mount a TV in here. If I wanted to watch something, I take my tablet from home, and then that gets put away when I'm done. Camera gear to keep that warm, the drone batteries and whatnot. There's my go bag. I have some baskets across the top. My thermometer's over here. The time is wrong on that. This little baby Gold Zero that I reviewed is for charging the camera gear. Little solar light that when I turn these lights off after the camera's off. These 1-gallon Arizona jugs fit in here perfectly, keeps your water thawed. And if you're going out for longer, you can actually dedicate this space and this space underneath it to store a lot of water in here. You can store like 8 gallons of water in here if you had to. And of course, if you guys watch the channel, my favorite hack. Before I got in, I made coffee. I filled this to the top, sealed it down. Then when I get up in the morning, I'm going to be able to have my coffee before I have to go out and battle the elements. So, all right, I'll see you guys in the morning. Good morning, folks. So this is not what I wanted to have happen. I have AM and FM radio as well as a weather band radio, and this storm has stalled out, and the second half of it is coming between now and noon. We're expecting another 5 inches. So right now I'm going to shovel out my campsite and get this snow off the Bushwhacker. It will warm up and freeze, and it makes for a much bigger mess. The road has still not been plowed, but it's still only about 6:30 a.m., so hopefully that'll happen. If it doesn't, I'm sure we'll get out of here, no problem. So I got work to do, let's get to it. So snow removal definitely looks a lot easier watching it on camera than it does doing it, but it's not so bad. It's a good way to get out in the morning and actually warm yourself up. When I watched this video back, I was surprised at how little snow it looked like we got. Now, a lot of it melted off the camper, and with this granular snow, a lot of it even blew off the Jeep, but we easily got over 5 inches overnight. I generally don't go too crazy with this job. I just make sure I get the camper clean, and then I'm not tracking any new snow inside. Okay, not too bad. That took me about 45 minutes. My hands got pretty cold, and I think that I hit slow motion on the camera instead of time lapse. So if I can't fix that in editing, I was able to clean off both my tow vehicle and the Bushwhacker. I also am having trouble getting this mic on, so I'm holding it like a newscaster. I shoveled enough space to move my tow vehicle and Bushwhacker back and forth a little bit in case I do have to put chains on this afternoon. Right now I'm going to hit the trails. These aren't bad conditions. It's just still very windy because the storm hasn't passed. Now, what I figured I'd be able to do to close this video off was to explain that this is not some man versus wild adventure. I'm not out here trying to battle the elements. This sort of stuff just tests my boundaries. It requires that you be very deliberate and slow down. To brush my teeth last night took about 45 minutes. I had to get all of my winter clothing back on, out of the bins, pour the water into the container, and walk away from the campsite. Now, if I was home, this is a 3-minute endeavor. So this sort of thing I find very valuable to me. To test my boundaries as far as an addiction to comfort, to come out here and get a little bit cold or get wet is not going to kill me. It just does a good job putting things in perspective, like how well I have it inside my home with electricity and a furnace. So I hope you appreciate that. I'll throw links in the description to all these little gadgets that I use, even though we were pretty bare bones today. So thank you for watching. If you like the video, and I will see you guys next time. Now, about halfway through my hike, the expected snow was coming in the form of freezing rain. The tree branches were glazing over, and the conditions overall were getting pretty nasty. This is one of the advantages of this hit-and-run style camping. I just start the car, warm it up for a bit, and go. Even though the road hadn't been plowed, I didn't need the chains. I just put it in 4-wheel drive and made a run for it. Coincidentally enough, after all of this waiting, I was just about off this road when I finally ran into the plow truck.
What are you doing?
Camping.